I think we have all of our technical issues possibly solved. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order for the Brunswick Housing Authority regular meeting scheduled for 9 a.m. August 10, 2022. We will have a moment of silence followed by a prayer from Commissioner Nickerson.
Our Father, we thank you today for another opportunity to be alive and to be able to accomplish great things that you have purpose and have given to us. Lord, I pray you bless this housing authority, Lord. Bless this community, bless the leadership, and bring unity and love and healing amongst us, Lord. And give us wisdom and clarity. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda. I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
I will ask Mr. Chair if we could on line 1.
I
I have a question. Okay, I'll wait. Questions come afterwards. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, let's make a motion to accept the agenda.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson to accept the agenda, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I have a discussion about the approval of number 1.
We haven't gotten to that point yet. We're just accepting the agenda. Do you have any items to add or subtract from the agenda?
Say that again.
Do you have any items you wish to add and or subtract from the agenda?
Yes, I have something to add. While I was waiting for the meeting to start, Dr. Nixon sent an email that I think we should address.
Any conversation about Dr. Nixon has to be handled with the counsel and or attorney at this point. We will not be discussing Dr. Nixon in this meeting.
With the counsel or an attorney.
Either Counselor Hartman or Ms. Lamar, I believe it's just Mr. Hartman. Any discussion about Dr. Nixon, you can speak to the attorney about, but we will not be speaking about in this meeting until counsel advises us.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Are we planning on having an executive session afterwards?
We probably do have to have a very brief executive session.
A very brief one.
Yes.
Why is it very brief?
There's 2 items on the agenda that I think needs to be moved to executive session just for the nature of the items.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Chase, I would like to add an item to the agenda under the commissioner item.
Okay.
I would like to add a request for to discuss monthly reporting for the commission in preparation for the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Also, under discussion items number 1 and number 2, I think those need to, even for our initial discussion, we need to move those into executive session. Did you guys hear me on that? For discussion items 1 and 2, we need to move those items under discussion items. We need to move those into executive session.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was going to ask.
So we have changes of moving discussion items 1 and 2 into executive session, and an additional commissioner's item on monthly reporting. Discussion. I need a motion to change the agenda to such
I'd like to make a motion that we change the agenda as discussed.
Okay.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Dickerson to amend the agenda as discussed. Do we have a second?
Second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Dickerson, seconded by Commissioner Dobson to amend the agenda. Any further discussion on the amendments?
Are you talking about the regular, are you talking about the regular agenda from last month?
No, I'm talking about the agenda from this month that we are currently on.
Alright.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same. Do we have any abstentions? I'm sorry, Mr. Wells, I didn't quite hear your vote. Were you in favor or were you?
I said aye.
Oh, okay.
Aye. You in favor?
Okay, great. So the amendments motion passes. Now I need we also have the regular to accept the agenda, so is there any further discussion other than making amendments to the agenda? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 What are we voting on now?
This was the motion to accept the agenda.
August agenda?
Yes, August 10. Today's agenda.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Opposed have opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously. Is Officer Wright present to give us the KPAC report? Okay, she may be in court. Okay, so we will look at deferring that till next month for a double report. Under old business, we have approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on July 13, 2022. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes?
Yes.
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 I will entertain a motion on accepting the minutes.
Second. Gonna make a motion.
Are you making a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Commissioner Dobson to approve the minutes as drafted by staff for the regular meeting held on July 13, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Dickerson. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously. Next, we have approval of the minutes of the special call meeting held on July 19, 2022. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes?
Yeah.
I reviewed the minutes. I would like to add that it be identified that I was not present in your meeting.
That you were, Commissioner Sorrells was not present in the special call held on July 19. I will entertain a motion to accept the approval of the minutes of the special call meeting held on July 19, 2022. I will entertain a motion. Anyone. I'm the only one who can't make a
Well,
motion.
there was corrections to be made, and I didn't get a correction of the special call.
Before we can, I still would like to have a,
You said that we could amend them today.
I need to have a motion on those so we can get to the amendment portion.
Look, I'm
Make a
not gonna
motion
make
that
a
we
motion.
accept the agenda.
the minutes.
I mean, the minutes.
Of the
Minutes.
special,
Of the
so I've got a
special call
motion
meeting.
by Commissioner Dickerson to accept the minutes of the special call meeting held on July 19, 2022. Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Do we have further discussion? This would be the place where you would make your changes.
Yes. It was undeniable, it was passed that Jamie Howe would remain the signing, and we did not pass for Ms. Cooper to be put in that position to replace, Ms. Strickland.
That is correct.
And it was not mentioned in the special call meeting minutes.
That was correct. We did not approve Ms. Cooper to be a signee. We approved Mr. Baker to be the signee.
No, we didn't.
Yes,
We
we
didn't
did.
approve anybody.
Yes, we did. We approved and voted and approved Mr. Baker to be the
No,
signee for
we
the
did
Brunswick
not.
Housing
We
Authority.
did not.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
not. Let me see that agenda, because I did not approve anybody, because I said, leave it blank, because Dr. Nixon was coming in that next Monday to be the assistant executive director. We did not put anybody in that position.
The check signer that the,
We voted
Madam
for it
Vice
to
Chair?
remain the way it was.
Madam Vice Chair, the check signer that we voted upon in that meeting was Mr. William Baker.
When did y'all vote on it? We didn't vote on it during the meeting.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
No, we didn't.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
No, we didn't.
Yes, ma'am, we
No, we
did.
didn't. And
Okay.
moving forward, no, we didn't. And moving forward, there was no mention of the special call meeting that I recommended between, Mr. Baker and the person that we said we can't discuss in this meeting about the allegations. That wasn't in the special call, minutes, and there was no mention that, Mr. Baker's approval for interim executive director was deferred. Those three things was not shown in the minutes.
In
And,
the-
and Mr. Chairman Kitts, if you knew that you wanted to say that we approved Mr. Baker for that, you should have mentioned that to me when we spoke on the phone when I texted you emailed you about this situation, and you said we were going to amend it today.
For the
We
amendments,
always make amendments prior to the meeting if there's something to be changed in the agenda or the minutes.
again, I did say that you could make your amendments as necessary, but the amendments that you're asking for were not a part of that particular meeting.
We
Or-
did not
or
approve
that-
Mr.
that was-
Baker to be there to sign the meeting. I don't know what that means.
I understand that you may have a discrepancy there, but we did vote to approve Mr. Baker as the check signee and
No,
not.
we didn't.
Okay, we have a disagreement there, but we will move on. Are there any other amendments to the special call meeting minutes held on July 19, 2022? Ms. Dyer, did you have something?
Oh, no, I thought we were approving it as it was written. I thought that's what you were voting on earlier.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay. So other than the changes of Ms. Sorrells and her not being there, does the minutes reflect, Ms. Curry, do you know if the minutes reflect?
And can I say something?
Absolutely, Madam Vice Chair.
And even if you said that you changed it to Mr. Baker, the minutes had Ms. Cooper down there as the new signer. So it's still a discrepancy.
Okay, so we do need to change that to say that it was to replace.
That would be an error.
Well, if the minutes actually read that you made the motion and Mr. Dickerson it was seconded.
We did not. We did not make that, we did not change for Mr. Baker to be the signer.
Yes,
And I don't
ma'am, we
know why
did.
you're saying that.
Yes, ma'am, we did. We want to change that to show that Mr.
Mr.
Baker,
Baker as the new one, how did the names get changed from Baker to Miss Cooper being the new signer? How did that happen?
I believe Miss Cooper was on the agenda as the person, but we did vote for Mr. Baker.
No, we didn't.
Would you like to change that to show that it was voted for Mr. Baker?
Do I want to see it? Say that again?
Would you like to change it so that it shows that we voted for Mr. Baker?
No, because I wouldn't have, no. Because he wasn't put in as the executive director. He was only employed to being the interim. So, you know, I don't know where this new coming up saying we voted for Mr. Baker to be the new signer. We did not say that. Because we, at the time, no, we didn't do that. We didn't.
You want to make amendments to the
Let's
minutes?
defer that until we watch them, until we can watch the video from last month again and we read it and we listen to it. Because we did not approve Mr. Baker
We,
to be the next signer.
we
We
already,
did not.
we already have
We-
two,
The way it was. We-
Madam Vice Chair, we have two motions on the floor that have to be voted on, and none of those are considered as a part of being deferred.
Are you raising your
So-
voice? Are you raising your voice?
I am trying to make sure that you hear me.
I can hear you. You don't
Okay,
need to raise your voice for me to hear you.
Now, what I need you to know is that we are currently making amendments to the special call meeting minutes. That's one of the motions on there.
Mm-hmm.
Are there specific changes that you would like to make to the minutes? We have to have a vote because the motion's on the floor.
The specific change I want to be made is that we did not change to approve Mr. Baker as the new signer. We left it as Ms. Howe, you, and whoever was on that, but it was neither Cooper or Baker. Thank you.
Who initially made the motion for the amendments? Mr. Dickerson, would you like to rescind your motion?
Yes, let's rescind it.
Okay, we've got Commissioner Dickerson making a motion to rescind his initial motion, which was to amend the minutes. Do we have a second for that?
So,
Seconded by Commissioner Dobson. So now we are back at just the approval. And so now I will entertain a motion to defer the approval of the special call minutes from anyone. Would you like to make a motion to defer the special call minutes?
Yes.
I've got a first and a second. Do we have any further discussion on rescinding the motion? All in favor, say aye.
all
Aye.
right.
Opposed, have the same. Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously. Now, I will entertain a motion to defer the special call minutes. Madam Vice Chair, would you like to make the motion to defer the special call minutes?
Yes.
I've got a motion by Madam Vice Chair to defer the special call minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Madam Vice Chair Bailey to defer, seconded by Commissioner Dickerson. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions or the opposed have the same? Do we have any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously. We will defer those minutes and we'll come back to those after review. Now we move on into executive director's items. We have approval for William Baker to become, or actually it's a ratification of William Baker to become our executive director. And before we begin, I'd like to read a prepared statement that I prepared for this opportunity, and that is concerning Mr. Baker. Mr. Baker was brought on immediately due to the dire circumstances of the Brunswick Housing Authority. Notice of Mr. Baker was announced as a sole finalist on the Brunswick Housing Authority website and at the central office at least 14 days ago. Mr. Baker's contract is being ratified after the 14 days has passed. During this period, the Brunswick Housing Authority has not received any comments, positive or negative, concerning Mr. Baker, and I will sign this and make it a part of our minutes going forward.
You said you haven't had no comment, positive or negative, about Mr. Baker. I oppose this approval.
Is that your motion?
I make a motion. Well, listen. This is not going right.
We will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we not approve Mr. Baker to become the executive director, because earlier he said he did not want to be the executive director, that he only wanted to do his term as interim if he was approved.
This is for his interim executive director.
It doesn't say interim. It says executive director. If it's interim, it should say interim executive director.
Okay,
If it's
okay.
executive director.
Yes, ma'am.
it
Yes,
should
ma'am.
be
I understand.
The executive
I
director.
understand. Do we have a second? Madam Vice Chair has a motion on the floor to what's the term? To not, or to rescind Mr. Baker's offer for interim executive director. Do we have a second?
Can you repeat the statement, arguing?
The motion is to rescind Mr. Baker's offer. Do we have a second?
I second that.
So we have a motion by Madam Vice Chair Bailey to rescind the offer for Mr. William Baker, seconded by Commissioner Sorrells. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor of rescinding the offer for Mr. Baker, please state your name and say aye.
Pamela Bailey, aye.
Tamika Burgess, aye.
The opposed have the same. If you oppose rescinding Mr. Baker's offer, please state your name and say aye.
Mike Dickerson, aye.
Justin Nelson, aye.
William Kitts, aye. Your motion, Madam Vice Chair, fails. And now we will entertain a motion to ratify Mr. William Baker as our interim executive director.
Listen, Words are very important.
Calling William Baker. Mobile.
Words are very important. And when you have a document like this, you have to be as specific of what you're asking for. Initially, when Mr. Baker's name came to the Brunswick Housing Authority, it was all interim. And now on this agenda, he has executive director. It's a discrepancy because y'all playing with words. So if you want him to be the interim executive director, that's one thing. But to have him down for approval as executive director, I think that's misleading the board. So I'm not approving that. No, I'm not approving that. That's crazy.
Madam Vice Chair, I think that, if anything, this may just simply be a typo. It is literally for him to be the interim executive director via his contract that was effective July 5.
So, Mr. Kicks,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
you are one of the people that generate the agenda, why don't you look it over? Just as the discrepancies in the special call minutes. So this is a big discrepancy.
So I will entertain a motion to ratify Mr. William Baker as our interim executive director.
Opposed?
We just need a motion. We're not voting as of yet.
I'd like to make a motion that we change it from executive director to an interim executive director, as approved, starting on July 5th.
I'm sorry, can you restate that again?
I'd like to,
Are you making a motion?
I'd like to make a
for,
motion.
Or are you making, because we've already accepted the agenda.
well, I'd like to make a motion for that. Well, first I thought we were supposed to move this to the executive session.
No, sir.
Items 1 and 2 then? Okay. But
It's 1 and 2 is under
I believe
discussion.
that's the discrepancy is the title, the interim executive director.
If you simply stated your motion,
Yeah, my
that it
motion.
is an interim executive director that you are motioning upon, that is what will go in our official minutes.
Yeah, that's the motion that we, that it be interim executive director.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson that we ratify for William Baker to become our interim executive director. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Dobson. Do we have any further discussion?
Hi, this is Commissioner Jerome. I do have, some thoughts on the record. I'm gonna abstain from the vote. Obviously, I wasn't on the commission and wasn't part of the process of selecting, Mr. Baker. This has nothing to do directly with Mr. Baker. But when asked to receive information around the decision, to bring him forward, no information such as resume, background, assessment of staff, none of that information was provided. I think that we might want to consider deferring the vote, so the commission can have some more discussion and maybe take this into the special call meeting if you think that is appropriate. But I certainly feel like not enough information has been provided to make a decision in this regard.
Thank you, Commissioner Sorrells, for your comments. I will open the floor to anyone else in this room who would like to make a statement about Mr. Baker. Anyone?
I agree with Commissioner Sorrells on what she just said.
Ms. Dyer, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that from my point of view, when he came in, he has injected life into this place. So, I mean, I don't really understand some of the comments, but I mean, if you want to compare it, the before and the after, it's someone, I wrote some notes down so I wouldn't forget. It's like night and day. It's leadership, vision, compared with authoritarianism and status quo and flying under the radar. So I think I speak for everybody here, and I'm sure y'all have something to say too, that this is a completely different place right now, and we're very happy to have him.
Well,
Thank you. Hang on. Thank you, Ms. Dyer. Hang on. Madam Vice Chair, give me just one moment. There are a couple people who also had their hands up. I just want to get their time for their statements. And Mr. Booker, Commissioner Booker, I did see your hand, but I'm gonna make sure I get to you as well. Ms. Cooper, did you have a statement? I thought I saw your hand up.
Yes, I'd like to concur with Ms. Dyer. The leadership, the vision, just the change of morale in staff, the ineffective leadership and complacency prior to Mr. Baker arriving has made a significant change. Even more so with residents. Mr. Baker, he's gotten out in the community, interacted with residents, interacted with staff. It's just definitely not something that we all were ever used to, for lack of better terms, but also bringing out, encouraging and bringing out each staff member be more confident in where they see themselves, their goals, kind of push them to bring out, all their skills and qualities and everything they have to offer to the Housing Authority. Mr. Baker has really been a blessing to the Brunswick Housing Authority, and I think I definitely speak for myself and others, that we're so thankful to have him.
Ms. House, did you have your hand up as well?
Yes. There is a new sense of accountability since Mr. Baker has arrived as our interim executive director. They're used to, or prior to his arrival, you could get by if you didn't have a strong work ethic and not be held accountable, which affected everybody that had anything to do with that particular job, and it's all intertwined here very tight. So Mr. Baker has brought a sense of accountability. You own your responsibilities and you follow through, and there's a measure at the end of that for success or failure. And nobody has really been held accountable to that, to the need of the Housing Authority until now. It's nice to have the support finally with ideas and options and growth and a vision that everybody has seen it, but nobody's come in with a plan on how to do it. And he has. He's put the right people in the right seat of the bus and given us an actual driving force to move forward to accomplish some really amazing things in the Housing Authority. It'd be detrimental at this point to not have him in the seat he's in order for us to move forward in the way that we've all sat here in these meetings once a month, or at least since the last year I've been here, in saying where we would like to see the Housing Authority go.
Thank you, Ms. House. Ms. Curry, did you have comments as well?
Yes. To coincide with what our prior co-workers stated, I've been here a year, July 12th, and I've seen more happen since Mr. Baker has come on board than within the year that I've been actually employed here, which is a good thing. So I'm excited that he's a part of our team and hoping that he stays longer than his interim term allows.
Commissioner Alan Booker.
I just want to add, and I have another meeting to do too as well.
Whose name did you call?
Commissioner Alan Booker.
What I was
Can you speak up a little bit? We have just this one microphone.
okay.
Here.
Can you hear me, Ms. Bailey?
Do you mind just moving a little closer? Can you by the door? We may be able to. I
I'm gonna
apologize.
walk out as soon as I finish.
Very accommodating.
First of all, I don't know Mr. Baker, but what I've heard of him has been very negative. but I'm at 30,000 feet. He's only been here, what, 2 months?
30 days.
30 days. I wouldn't, the comments from the staff, I would take that in consideration. But you got to look overall. Being a part of selecting many, the county manager, other department heads in the county over the last 10 years, he should never want to come in with split vote, because there's always going to be issues. And so if he accepts this role, for me, that's a red flag. You always want a unanimous vote of your bosses. A number of the folk candidates for the county manager's position over the years, and the recruiters that do this all the time. You never want to split vote. There's obviously some issues that the board has to work out, and he seems to be at the linchpin in this. And for me, the staff, they haven't been around him long enough. 30 days is not long for them to really evaluate him. There's a honeymoon period that they're in, I believe. But the things that I've heard about him, and not having met him, I don't know if I would recognize him if he walked in the door. But my main issue is he should not come in when you all are not united. There's always going to be issues if he's not a person that's really uniting the board, because he has to answer to you all, not the staff. And if there's been staff here for a long time, longer than a year, then you have to look at that as well. Because all the complaints I've gotten, I grew up in public housing. Number 5, Albert Andrew Terrace, and 100 Booker Homes. All of them, all of the units are in my district. I've heard many complaints, as you have, Chairman, and other commissioners over the years. And if staff didn't speak up, I heard from none of the staff, and all this time. And I've been on the county commission for 10 years. So I would kind of measure what they're saying right now. Anybody that's been here over a year, and if he's only been here 30 days, and the things that I've heard, he's not the one. That's just my opinion. And I know y'all got a tough, and my thing is, you all have been doing such a great job in turning this ship around and moving it in the right direction. You don't need somebody that's bringing disunity right now. So I'm leaving now. My number is published. I'm available to meet after this, but I have another meeting to get to. And understand, legally, there's other things, because the housing authority is accountable to the city and the county indirectly. And so it's not like this is the housing authority just out in this vacuum by itself. But again, I didn't get any calls from any of the staff that's been around about the complaints that we've heard about people, and the changes that we've been pushing for, and to see all the changes you have made. I know Chairman Kitt, since you've been on here, you've been leading this thing, and I think in the right direction. I implore you, you need to bring everybody back together. You don't need anybody that's going to divide you from your other commissioners. So that's my 2 cents. And any of the staff that want to talk to me, I'm available. I've always been available.
Thank you, Commissioner Booker, and we appreciate you joining us today.
All right.
Commissioner Bailey?
Commissioner Bailey, is your yes?
Yes. I would like to start by piggybacking off what Commissioner Booker said, because when I first met Mr. Baker, and Chairman Kitt, you were there with me, he really listened, he really came in like a whirlwind. This, change this. And a lot of things that have been put in place as far as the staff and administration, I've had suggested those ideas, like the organizational chart. And then when I learned that they didn't have enough staff to do the operation effectively of housing authority, I came up with some of the different positions to add in there. And he was asking us, and you know, he started out by doing a resume. But one of my things is this: you can have all the skills in the world, but your behavior is secondary, is top priority to me. Now, the former ED may not have given us what we wanted when we asked for it, and she was delayed on a lot of things that we could have done. But as Commissioner Booker said, the staff was silent. And after she left, oh, they opened up like a hurricane. Da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. Okay? And so, my concern is this. He was all over the place. He wasn't organized or anything enough. And then on the back of his resume, not the second page, he hasn't been with a housing authority since the 90s. Okay? And so I took your directive, Mr. Chairman, of who Mr. Baker was. But his outbursts, and it's not the first time that I heard about an outburst within the housing authority among the staff. So no, I don't, okay. So if we agree for him for the intro, I accept that. But any further than that or whatever, no. He is not the person we want for housing authority to go forward. Because if we allow him to have those disruptive behavior between somebody coming on into housing authority as an employee or a staff, then, and we don't do anything about it now, it's going to get worse if we don't correct it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. We appreciate that. I will allow one additional minute for additional persons to speak, starting with Ms. Dyer. 1 minute. Go.
Okay. As far as contacting the county commissioner when I have an issue at the housing authority, I mean, that would never cross my mind. But second of all, what the reason the staff, especially those of us who have been here longer than a year, feel free to speak now is because we have been instructed since we were hired that you do not speak to a board member about anything unless she is aware and knows what you're going to talk about. So that is the main reason. Second reason, if I felt like there might have been somebody on the board I could speak to with that particular person who would not go back and say something to her. I never had that level of comfort with anyone, so I didn't do anything.
I want to also,
1 moment. Thank you, Ms. Dyer. Ms. Cooper has 1 minute. Go.
I want to also add, that, of course,
Please speak up.
we would not contact a county commissioner, much less were we not allowed to even speak to a Brunswick Housing Authority commissioner in threat of being fired. We were not allowed to communicate. We were not allowed to talk. We had someone here to hold us accountable, but there was no one, in a sense that we were aware of at that time, to hold an executive director accountable. And if anything was reported and found out that it was reported, our jobs would be terminated on the spot. So being allowed to have a voice to express our concerns and visions and where we want to see this going, it makes it such a great place to come to work every day and to have someone that shares that same compassion and that does not want to just hide behind a desk.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Mr. Cooper, I'll give you 1 minute.
I'll take 1 minute. Mine's gonna be based off of personal opinion on Mr. Baker. I've only known him for the 30 days he's been here. I've been all over the county with him. I've been on property. I've been with him in staff meetings. I've been with him speaking to everybody. And this man respects and loves, as far as I can see, everybody. And the morale within the within the housing authority has completely changed. And I've been on the outside looking in for a long time, and it went from tears at night from employees that were currently here under the last administration to every day. I mean, people was coming in early, staying late, walking properties together, communicating, laughing, having lunch on Fridays. The morale as a whole has completely turned. And for that, I mean, I applaud Mr. Baker for what he's done in the short time he's been here so far.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Who's that who just spoke?
Officer Ronnie Cooper.
Ronnie Cooper. Okay, I didn't hardly hear what he said.
Okay. So does any other commissioner have anything else they want to say before we vote on the approval, or excuse me, the ratification for William Baker as our interim executive director? Any other commissioner have any other thing they want to say?
I would like to bring up my point on this, basically upon hearing what the staff have just expressed, knowing by me being on the personnel committee that no staff could be fired unless brought before the chairman as well as Attorney Hartman on for any reason. It has to be brought before us. So I'm just making this statement that what they're saying now versus in the past, that we do know that they did not talk to us. The environment was different when I've started in November. The environment now is a lot different when I come through them doors. So obviously there was a difference of opinion in the former leadership, now this leadership. So from hearing the staff today, my thoughts, my consideration is that we should hear what our staff is saying and take that into consideration, because nobody could force them to say what they just said, or they'd be concerned about their job like they was in the past due to the fact of our succession plan that we approved as a board in the absentee of Commissioner Sorrells, because she was not there at that time. So I think we should take in consideration, because I was not expecting you all to say what y'all just said. I wasn't expecting that. So I think we should take that in consideration, even though we do know we have some issues we need to deal with in executive session. Nobody's perfect though. As a pastor, I'm going to bring that point out. He that is without sin, cast the first stone. So that's my thought on it. And we got a lot of judgment, we got a lot of condemnation, but I'm going to bring up this point. Where was all of this fight with the former administration? I'm going to bring that out too. Where was the fight then? Even from outside people. Nobody was fighting the former administration. But now we got a new administration, and that's being fought more now than, and I've been here only since November. Now, if it's been before that, y'all help. But I've seen more fight against this administration in the last 30 days than I saw in the former administration. Now, of course, Vice Chair, you have been fighting since I've been on the board against the former administration, but I'm talking about outside people. I haven't seen outside people come in and consider us firing the former executive director. But here we are being challenged on the new one. So I just want to bring that point out, and I'm finished.
Thank you, Commissioner Dickerson. Again, is there any other commissioner?
I would like to add in on
Yes, sir, Commissioner Dobson.
what I've heard today. I've heard staff.
Please speak up, sir.
I've heard staff. Pardon me.
Speak up loud enough for them to be able to hear.
I've heard staff voice their opinion very strongly for the first time since I've been on this board. I've heard different conversations going from positive to negative. I agree on certain things that we have to be united in our decision. That's number one. My suggestion is let's trust the process. Go on as forward as the interim, and let's iron that out. Let's take one step at a time. We're getting interim, as they were saying. We want to satisfy everybody. Everybody got a fair say on the board. Let's go with the process of, since the words were spelled the way she wanted to be spelled, but she have points. She have opinions. Everybody have opinions. My opinion, I can only speak for me. Let's go as forward as the interim. We got to start somewhere. Iron one thing out at a time. And we have to have executive sessions to iron out other discrepancies that can be done too. It's a process for everything. But we can't go on divided. This board can't survive being divided. I trust staff opinion. I trust you guys. You guys been here for a long time. I value your opinions. And I commend you, Pastor, because you brought unity to a situation that needed to be rectified in a spiritual and a physical way, in a mental way. This board needs rest. This board needs to think. This is a decision that's going to be very important going forward. And I want to be a part of this process, and I trust the process. And I want to make a fair decision going forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Dobson. Does anyone else have anything else they want to add? Yes, sir, Mr. Skipper, one moment.
Commissioner Sorrells, I think she's raised her hand. Does anyone think she has something?
Yes, Commissioner Sorrells? Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to extend my gratitude to the staff, and being so transparent. And my intention, as I mentioned in my statement, was not necessarily about, it was about how the board prepares to make a decision and what information is provided to do so. And so your testimonies is something that I think we absolutely should take into consideration, and it would have been ideal if we would have had that information prior to going into this meeting, so that we could have done that. But two sort of technical questions. What is the term for the interim executive director? And then what are we considering as a commission in terms of any quality control to sort of see where, if Mr. Baker is confirmed, what that process would look like to sort of stay abreast of the performance of the housing authority, and his performance particularly.
As interim executive director, effective as of July 5, we have entered into a 6-month contract with Mr. William Baker. There are some performance measures in there that are relatable to the annual report, or what is that called? The annual, what's our?
ACC?
No, where we give the,
What, our fast score?
no.
REAC?
No,
We'll stop.
no, the annual plan. It's just the annual plan. There were some, portions in there for performance based upon the annual plan.
Thank you. I would encourage us to have some monthly, milestones and things that we can look at. And that's something that we can discuss in another session, but I would like that to be considered.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Vice Chair, you have final words?
Would just like to say this. Even though we never heard any outside voices to the prior administration, I want to be remiss of what I want y'all to remember what Commissioner Booker said. It's all a honeymoon period, you know. Listen, it's like anything. You meet somebody, they show you how, they put on the first impression and everything like that. And then once you get into a somewhat relationship with them, and then something puts up a red flag. And my thing, like I said before, is behavior. Because the top management has to be the model for how the employees and the staff's gonna act. You know what I'm saying? And so, like I said before, the staff may not have been able to, they were told not to talk to us or anything like that, but they could have sent an email, they could have sent a letter to Mr. Hartman. We did it. We were told we couldn't speak to Mr. Hartman unless it was approved through the Board of Commissions. We found out that was wrong. So all I'm saying is he came in and made some changes and gave some people some raises before he was appointed interim director on July 1st. So I'm just saying, y'all better be mindful of what you're doing. I know Brunswick Housing Authority needs to be moved forward and some changes need to be made, okay? But a rush to judgment because he moved some positions around and this, that, and the other thing, that's one thing. But behavior and how you respect other people is a whole nother thing. And that's all I have to say.
For clarity, for the record, I do want to say this for clarity. The outside opposition was not pointed at what County Commissioner Booker said. It's the things that we're receiving, period, from all outside influences right now. I've seen more outside opinions or heard more opinions, more outside influences in these past 30 days than I saw since I've been a commissioner since November of 2021. That's for the clarity. And it wasn't directed only at Commissioner Booker, it's directed at all that has been happening, even personally. Now, I ain't gonna go there. Cause that ain't for this session. So personally, things will come at me.
Commissioner Dixon, I'm going
I
to
just
go
wanted
ahead.
to be clear.
Commissioner Dixon, I appreciate it. For a matter of time, because we do have a lot of things to get through. We do have a motion on the floor. We do have a motion on the floor.
They were outside.
Madam Vice Chair, please.
Yeah.
I don't want to take up too much time. We've heard comments, and now we're receiving secondary comments on secondary comments. Let us go ahead and proceed with the vote. As our motion was by Commissioner Dickerson to ratify William Baker as interim executive director, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. All in favor, please state your name and say aye.
Kamaya Dickerson, aye.
Chester Dobson, aye.
Pamela Bailey, opposed.
Well, we haven't gotten to the opposed yet. William Kitts, aye. The opposed have the same. Please state your name and nay. That's the term to use for the opposition.
Pamela Bailey, nay.
Tamika Frazier Burrows, nay.
That motion to ratify William Baker as interim executive director passes 3-2. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate that. Let's move on to our next agenda item, which is board staff training with Ms. Kirk, scheduling for September. Has everyone had an opportunity to review that part of our packet?
What?
This will be for board and staff training by Ms. Kirk. This is to help us during this transition period, develop our communication skills in speaking to one another.
I I see it on the agenda, Commissioner Kitts, I don't see any documentation in the packet that gives that detail or states in which the training will occur, and I might have missed something.
It was not in the actual packet.
And Mr. Kitts, excuse me, Chairman Kitts, you said this special training is for the board and staff on communicating among one another, is that what you said?
Yes. And apparently, the actual packet for that training was not distributed to the entire board, so I will entertain a motion to defer that item until the entire board has an opportunity to look over that training.
I'll second that motion.
Are you making the motion, Ms. Sorrells? Commissioner Sorrells?
I thought you said you made the motion.
No, I
I'll
can't.
make the motion to defer that decision.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Sorrells to defer the board staff training with Ms. Kirk. Do I have a second?
Second.
I second that motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Dickerson. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, have the same. That motion passes that it is deferred. Now we move on to approval for Jazz and Blues Festival 2022. Has everyone had an opportunity to review that item?
Yes, I have reviewed, because we don't have any documentation of our finances, expenses, things of that nature. I don't know that we can make that decision.
Chairman Kitts, whose idea was it for the Jazz and Blues Festival?
The Jazz and Blues Festival was submitted to the Housing Authority by the Coastal African American Historic Preservation Committee, which is a joint committee between the city and the county. In particular, we do have a representative, Miss Anita Collins, here today if we have any further discussion.
I would say that I think there's value in the event, and I appreciate that it's happening. I understand that we have a pot of money that this funding would come out of, but that pot of money also is inclusive of services to residents as well. And so again, I would like to make a motion for us to make a decision about the amount that we can provide based on a review of that budget and other line items associated with the funding that will come through, unless there's someone in the meeting that wants to speak to that directly.
We do have our finance director here, Miss Sharon Dyer. I'm sure she can answer any financial questions that you have concerning the basically the account that those funds would come out of. And do you have a direct question for Ms. Dyer?
So Ms. Dyer did let me know that the funding, we have indicated that Ms. Dyer, you correct me if I'm misunderstanding this, that we have about $8 million in a program, in a non-federal program, that we could use these funds for. And she states that these funds have been used in the past to fund resident services, like scholarship programs, daycare, et cetera. And again, I'm not negating the value of the event. I believe that there is value to the event. I just want to be able to make a sound decision based on an understanding of what the Housing Authority has planned in the future for these funds, and where this would impact those funds. I want to ensure that we're not taking away from critical services like daycare if we're providing those types of things for scholarships. So I just want to get a sense of where we are with funding in order to make a decision on the amount that can contribute to this event.
Sure, the funds
And I would
that,
rather have that information in writing.
the funds that we have for this program are not, it's not a static number. We still receive funding for that program every month. And it's close to $60,000 a month, just on the base fees that program receives. What we have budgeted in there for this fiscal year, I don't have the number in front of me right now, but is the items that we have budgeted, such as the daycare program, et cetera, are far, far less than what we even would receive in 1 year. So to add this one event to the items that are going to be funded from this program would be negligible.
So I believe that, and just to make sure, I would just want clarity on this. The programs that we have already funded, such as daycare, such as Boys and Girls Club, such as all of our summer programs that we have already funded, those were already paid for, and the remaining balance that you have discussed with Commissioner Sorrells, this would come out of the remaining balance and or out of the monthly income that this particular account already receives.
Right, it's partly the monthly income that's coming in. Some of the programs you just mentioned are ongoing and we are billed over time. You know, Boys and Girls Club, that's quarterly, but still, you know, for 1 year, we are nowhere close to spending anywhere approaching what we receive in that fund.
Okay. So this to facilitate this Jazz and Blues Festival from, at least from the portion of the Housing Authority, it would be insignificant.
Exactly.
It would be a great help to the Jazz and Blues Festival, of course,
Right.
but from
But
our point
financially for
financially
us-
of the Housing Authority, it would be nominal.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Collins, would you like to speak for this, the proposal?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to come before all of you this morning. The Coastal African American Historic Preservation Commission, and it is a commission that was jointly created 2013 by the City of Brunswick and Glenn County. The commission has been attempting to do a few projects, none of them as far-reaching as the Albany Street Jazz and Blues Festival. The Albany Street Jazz and Blues Festival is presented to you and this community to highlight an area in the city of Brunswick that has exceptional significance to the African American story. And within that area, you have all the old colored memorial, you have the old Rizzi High School, you have businesses that were there that are no longer there, as well as businesses that are there and struggling. You have a strong community there. The McIntyre housing community sits right in the center of this historic street, Albany Street. And therefore, the reason for this program, this jazz festival, is to highlight the significance of that story so there can be more visibility, improvements, as well as a connective fiber that African Americans have contributed to this community since this community was started. And that's pretty much what I have to say. Who does not love good music? Music is a tie that we all have, and it binds us, it heals us, it refreshes us. And with McIntyre Court sitting where it sits, we want to have a play space for the children, a safe play space where children can, because they may not want to sit and wait and listen to music, but so they have a place to be, and we want to involve that community, McIntyre Court, in this effort through their residents and their young people, because as you see in the packet, we want to have some youth ambassadors who live in McIntyre Court who would work in the play space area as well as along the street to help with various things and just help them to improve their self-image as well as begin to develop leadership skills.
One moment, I just want to, just in case anyone have any questions.
Oh,
Does anyone have questions? Any of the commissioners have questions for Ms. Collins?
So, Ms. Collins, this event will, I'm trying to continue to stay loud. I'm not a loud person, so I'm gonna try to be loud. So if I lift my voice, I'm not angry, because I don't normally lift my voice, just so that you can hear me, Commissioner Sorrells and Commissioner Bailey. My question is, this event will promote unity, love, and healing for our community.
that's the intention. As well as to have fun. It's a family event. So just stroll down the street, have something to eat, purchase from vendors that would be on the street, allow your children to play, and bring your chairs, your blanket, and sit and listen to some good music. Yes.
So we promote economics as well.
Of course. Economic empowerment is crucial for all of us, particularly the African American community.
Any other questions for Ms. Collins?
Yes, I have one.
Yes.
You gave the best presentation today.
Thank you.
I will say that.
You touched me.
Thank you.
I love music. I'm a musician.
I know you
And
are.
I stand McIntyre Court.
Okay.
I'm a residential commission.
Right.
Resident commission. I'm thrilled about that idea. I love it.
Thank you.
Music soothes the heart. We need more of it.
We need more of it. Yes.
Like my motto was always, it's a start. We got to start somewhere.
Right.
I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will entertain a motion for approval for the Jazz and Blues Festival of 2022. One moment, I'll get back to you when we get into discussion, Mr. Edwards. I'll entertain a
I'll make a
motion.
motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Sorrells to approve the Jazz and Blues Festival 2022, seconded by Commissioner Dickerson. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Edwards, I think you wanted to stay or work, say.
Yeah, I just wanted to catch Ms. Collins. What's the targeted date for the event? I didn't get a privy to the package.
October 8, 2022.
Okay, and while the entertainment and community celebration is on the floor, our newly hired coordinator of residential services was charged with putting together an event. We just want to make sure we didn't clash with anything.
Yes, sir.
But moving forward, if you know the housing authority needs to be represented, I would definitely volunteer to be on
He would definitely.
on that committee.
Well, the housing authority is crucial because that's why I mentioned McIntyre Court. And personally, our ask is that the residents and the housing authority work to develop what that looks like.
It's coming.
The Coastal African American Historic Preservation Commission, we have a lot to get done, and even though we all live in Brunswick, or even if you live in the county, we all live in Brunswick. So that would be the housing authority's huge contribution in addition to the funds, is to pull it together so that the residents have a stake in developing what that play space area looks like, as well as how they want to lift up McIntyre Court. I mean, a lot of folks from my generation just don't understand how many people live and did live in McIntyre Court, okay? It didn't matter whether you were a teacher, whether you were a dentist, whether you were a doctor. Many people came out of McIntyre Court, and that's what we want people to understand, particularly from the African American community.
Please add me to the email list.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Can I say something?
Yes.
You still touching me. When you get this going, I like to be informed, because if any way I can be a part of this, being that I'm in the residence, I would do everything I can to help that situation.
Thank you. Thank
So,
you.
I need to be notified. You said October?
October 8th, second Saturday in October.
Okay, we'll have further discussion on this, sir.
Thank you.
I just want to let you know that I'm a willing participant.
Okay, well, I have your name and I'll get your email address.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Any further discussion from commissioners before we vote? Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Sorrells for approval of the Jazz and Blues Festival 2022, seconded by Commissioner Dickerson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The opposed have the same. Are you guys hearing me, Madam Vice Chair and Commissioner Sorrells?
I answered.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Okay, do you mind telling me how you answered, because I didn't hear it and I'm not sure, Pedro. Did you?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Sorrells, can I ask the same of you, please?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that motion, thank you both so much. That motion passes unanimously. Moving on into discussion items, we have.
I have a question. I have something to say before we move on to discussion items. We don't have a maintenance report, and we don't have the residents write-offs for July.
Yes.
Or August.
Yes, that is correct. We do
Oh,
not have
okay,
those, we do not have those reports at this time.
And can I ask why not?
I believe it is a very fluid situation. Staff is working on those reports, and we will have those reports hopefully at our, what is next month? September meeting.
Okay, and I have to make another statement that's not also on this agenda. Please forgive me, but I just remembered it. I noticed on one of the emails that Vincent Williams got an email from Brunswick Housing Authority. The board did not vote or see any job description or a position for Vincent Williams. So I don't know how we're gonna deal with that now, because I didn't say it in the beginning, but I just remembered it. But if we can tap into that briefly before we go into discussion items, bring me up to date.
We will, again, I think that is something that we can discuss either offline, or if we do it, or if we have time in our executive session.
Okay.
We will move on. We have employee expansion by Ms. Dyers and Ms. Howes. So please take over for us, Ms. Dyer and Ms. Howes, or Ms. Howes and Ms. Dyer. And please be sure to speak up so that our online participants can hear you properly.
Okay, I'm gonna go at this from a budget standpoint, and she'll be the HR standpoint from this, but normally what we have done in the past is, all positions are budgeted, and you remember on June 29th or so, we approved the fiscal year 2023 budget, which included all of the staff that were in place as of June 30th. Since that time, as Mr. Kitts has said, it's been quite fluid, and changes have been made and changes are being proposed. And what we're asking is that the board grant Mr. Baker and his staff the discretion of creating an organizational chart that makes sense for the housing authority, knowing that it might change a bit over time, and then when it's what is deemed final, then we will come to the board for approval of that.
Okay, I think I caught most of that. So, again, we're in a fluid situation, and there are certain decisions that need to be made, and with organizing and bring, and that's more at a staff level. However, because it is a budgetary issue, the board does need to have, or at least give a little more leeway in that
Yes.
decision-making process.
Yes.
With a final decision still remaining to the board.
Right.
Okay. Ms. House?
No, I mean, that's the issue, is we have a lot of things to fix and to fill in order for things to run, efficiently, smoothly, so we can stay on top of things, to prevent a lot of the past things that have occurred from recreating or staying, consistent. In order to fix those things, you need bodies to fix them. So, it would be more beneficial, in us expediting that process to be able to give Mr. Baker discretionary approval over, reorganizing the, org chart and putting people where they're best utilized, filling particular positions, roles for those services that we need, such as facilities maintenance and so forth. And then ultimately presenting that to the board for, their final approval. But giving him the discretion to do so we can hurry up, get these positions filled, get in the right areas that they need. Like I said, we all know that there's a facilities need issue, and that would help expedite that process. Prior to that, you end up having to go through a lengthy process if you're following best HR practices, which is creating a position requisition form, and then making sure the job descriptions are appropriate for the job that you're asking somebody to do, and then going through a line of folks for signatures and budget approvals, and then finally getting posted, and then screening applicants, and then interview. By the time that happens, there's a lot that's not getting done. So this would help expedite that process in the meantime, so we can get a jump start, and get a good footing foundation underneath us to build better what we need for our residents.
Because part of this whole thing is, in the past, up until, well, even to this day, I suppose, we've had contractors do the vacancy prep cleaning and painting, for example, and lawn maintenance. So now the thought is to bring that in-house and hire staff to do that, but that's brand new to the housing authority, or at least it hasn't been that way in a very long time. So that wasn't something that was on the organizational chart or in the budget, in that way.
We'd like to have them as staff versus having them as contractors. It's easier to hold, staff accountable, than some of our contractors. You're adhering to a contract and whatever those terms are, despite how things change without having to do amendments. If we bring them on board and we're staff, there's more of a level of accountability and hands-on of what's happening in the day-to-day operations. And it's more cost-effective.
Commissioners?
Agree.
I'm trying to understand what is,
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
go ahead. Go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Commissioner Bailey, I think your question might help you.
Hang on.
In the initial meeting of Mr. Baker, I asked for an organizational chart because, different questions were coming up, and I seen the need for it when COVID came and we lost a staff member. And, we were told that a lot of staff was cross-trained, but then come to find out that some of them, they weren't cross-trained into different positions. And so, talking to Mr. Baker, these different positions were just coming up in my mind to add to the organizational chart. Now, there's two positions that's in question but basically we done had the organizational chart in our July meeting. So, I haven't been there. I recovered from COVID and now I'm out of town. But the only two positions that seem to be in question now is the Vincent Williams position and residential services. Because I never heard of residential services before. This was something that came up, and it wasn't even on the organizational chart when it was done. We had social services and everything else that was on that organizational chart, but resident services was not one of them that was mentioned or asked about, and Vincent Williams' position. And so we're going to have until we finalize people's position because it's still going on. And the other question is, I seen a letter to be thanked for a pay raise on July 1st to some employees. But if Mr. Baker allegedly was hired on July 1st, how did it get approved for staff to get a raise? And an organizational chart is going to be changed until we have a permanent fix in there. So that's all I had to say about it.
Commissioner Sorrells, I think you had a comment. Commissioner Sorrells, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry, I was on mute. It was a little hard to hear, so I wanted the ask to be restated. I am not clear what we are being asked. What permission are we being asked in regards to Mr. Baker and the organizational chart?
To allow him a little more leeway in the creation of the organizational chart. If there is, in my understanding, if there is a need for additional positions, to allow for those to happen, but ultimately it comes back to the board for our approval, but the day-to-day is what he is, I believe is the ask.
So to make some decisions on day-to-day operations and how that might necessitate some movement of staff or the creation of positions, is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Yes.
And in those creation of positions, that might involve identifying salary, and is that to come to the board for approval?
Yes. My understanding is, those would be our budgetary issues that we would have to, that the board would have to, finalize on. Am I
Yeah.
stating that properly, Ms.
Right,
Ms.
because
Dyer?
historically,
Can you
Yeah.
hear Ms. Dyer? Mr. Rels, can you hear Ms. Dyer speaking?
I can,
Okay.
No.
yes, I can, thank you.
historically, we have gotten board approval for additional staff. Normally, it would come around at budget time. You know, I don't remember us ever increasing the, staffing of the organization any time other than budget time, but it was brought to the board for approval as part of the budget. So, that's why now we're saying if that's what we have always done, what we would like to be able to do now is, because in my way of thinking, what would be created today and what might be created in 6 months might be slightly different when some of the stuff that's planned starts actually happening. So we're saying, can we grant him some discretion in the creation of positions, et cetera, and then once we feel like we have a lock on what we want to look like, go to the board for approval of that. But it doesn't mean that there won't be any discussion with the board about it in the meantime. It just means the official approval would be later.
So it seems to me like there are already some decisions that have been made around staffing that have been of question, that have not gone before the board for approval. So he is already acting in the term with some leeway. So I'm not really clear how this act is different from past behavior.
When I said it was different from past behavior, I was referring to prior fiscal years.
I'm sorry, Ms. Dyer, I wasn't directing that to you, my apologies.
No, but,
To
no
the
problem.
commission. I'm just, for our consideration, it appears that there are some decisions that have already been made that did not receive our approval. So what would you do differently in this sense if we were to grant this permission?
Good question.
Commissioners?
Well, my thought would be to ensure that we oversee moving forward, any leeway given as the interim executive director to ensure that it's meeting our budget as well as the qualifications of staffing here, and ensuring that we can move forward with every project that we plan to, and improving our residents as well as the staff here in our city. Just making sure we have the right overseer, and then by myself and you, Commissioner Sorrells, we're on the finance committee, and then I'm on the personnel committee. So we will definitely play a vital role in overseeing to ensure that the interim executive director is following what he is asking, or whatever we may approve, if we approve. So that's my thoughts on it.
So let me ask this question. So since you're asking us for him to have that leeway, in our next meeting in September, is there going to be an organizational chart of the positions that he already switched the staff to, per se, for us to, because he does the staff. So are we going to see that chart of the positions that he already moved staff into other positions prior to going forward? Because there was a lot of changes already made and staff going into different positions already that hadn't came to board yet. We just seen it on the organizational chart of the draft, and the one that I thought was permanent in July. So now, all of those positions going to come forward, and a job description come with it.
I would like to say that of course, this is a transitional period. There's going to be a lot of fluid movements during this transition. If I got this correct, and I believe I understand the ask, it is more from a budgetary point of view from the Board of Commissioners. My understanding is that the interim executive director, Baker, may need to make some additional changes to staff, which could affect the budget, but due to the nature and condition and circumstances of the housing authority that we are currently in, they're asking us to grant them a bit of leeway in making those decisions, and allow for the board to be informed so we can get a jump on whatever those conditions may come forth. And the board can have approval for that at a later time, which, and I'm gonna say this, as a part of my notes here, the finance subcommittee and the personnel subcommittee should have an opportunity to review, because then we don't have to look at an entire month before the board can be at least possibly informed. Those subcommittees can meet rather quickly based upon their schedules, and I think that's the type of oversight, at least from the board point of view, if we provide this employee expansion. That's at least the nominal insight that we need to have. But if I'm not mistaken, traditionally the board has only allowed for employee expansion at our annual meetings. It didn't come up in any other time during the year, and staff would like to be able to bring that to us more regularly, but decisions do need to be made, which could affect the budget, for our approval, other than annual our annual meetings, if I understand that correctly.
Thank you, Commissioner Kidd, that was helpful. I know we're in the process of financial audit. I believe that there is a HUD audit that's occurring. There's several things that are happening that we're going to get some assessments on in the next, I would hope that those are happening, and we'll know those things in the next 60 to 90 days, if not sooner. And so I would have a concern about any staff changes being made until we get some findings of those reports, because those might necessitate other changes to be made. So that's my concern about, and I do understand that he can meet with us and meet with the various committees, the staff can meet with us to express those things. But I am concerned about I feel like a premature assessment of not, from all operations, and not, without having some of these reports finalized.
Right, and again, I thank you, Commissioner Sorrells, that's an excellent point. And I'd like to just kind of piggyback just a little bit on that. Understanding that we've had some reports that may not have put the best light on the Brunswick Housing Authority, and as these reports come forward, is the board willing to wait for 30 days to act on those reports, or should we allow our executive director, our interim, let me make sure I'm clear, our interim executive director, to have a little discretion and leeway in making sure that those issues get tackled as far as staff?
Yeah, I don't want to impact day-to-day operations. I want to be clear about that. I don't want to uphold the operations and the outcomes being met. But based on my experience thus far, information hasn't been brought up forth for us to even make decisions. So I prefer to make decisions that are not just verbal decisions, but there are things in writing. So if we can see these reports and get the findings of these reports, I am absolutely okay with moving forward. But I am not comfortable with just self-reporting, which is, in my limited exposure to this board, has happened in the last 30 days. That's not to suggest that that's how all decisions have been made, but that's my experience thus far.
Understood. Any further comments for the employee expansion? I will entertain a motion. Any motion at all. Anyone can make a motion, except for me. Any commissioner. I can't make a motion.
Well, I'll do it.
Okay, you make a motion for approval?
Right.
I have a motion for approval of the employee expansion by Commissioner Dobson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second for approval of the employee expansion by Commissioner Dickerson. Do we have any other discussion? I would just like to add to this part of the discussion that, again, I know we're in a fluid situation. Things are changing very rapidly at the Housing Authority, some to our favor, some not so much. I would encourage, and I want to actually employ both the Finance Subcommittee and the Personnel Subcommittee to work very closely with our interim executive director so that when these topics, if this gets approved, when these topics come forth, not only do we have the information from the interim executive director, but as well as from the Finance Subcommittee and the Personnel Subcommittee as well. So I'm charging those two subcommittees to make sure that they take an active stance in this decision if approved.
Fair enough.
Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, have the same? I'm sorry, Commissioner Sorrells, I think you may be muted.
Thank you, yes, I oppose.
Okay, so that motion passes 4-1. Board members, as a matter of fact, just real quick, our next item is MOU evaluations. We are currently reevaluating our MOUs with our various partners and such and so forth that we deal with. I believe, do we actually have a report on those as of yet from staff? Just on the MOUs? No report. Okay, so we will again, in going through this process, and I think moving forward, we may have to actually have some of that discussion in executive session. But the MOUs, the staff has began the process of reviewing our annual MOUs with our various partners that we have. Next up is a boys and girls presentation by, what exactly is your title? I know we've changed some stuff around, Ms. Cooper.
Director of Housing.
Our Director of Housing, Ms. Joyce Cooper. Thank you.
With the route.
Sure, yeah. Make sure this gets attached to the minutes.
Okay.
Hi. It's an actual presentation.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. This was a collaborative effort, so thank you for all that help. So it is no secret that, I'm passionate about Brunswick Housing Authority and all that we have to offer, especially for the children. And so I wanted to visit the Boys and Girls Club because we have a current MOU with the Boys and Girls Club specifically for our Glenvilla and McIntyre facilities. And so I paid a visit just to introduce myself. And upon my visit, I noticed some things that were questionable. So we'll start with McIntyre Court. Bradley, you can just kind of next.
Or you want me to do that? It doesn't matter.
There. Okay. So, and Commissioner Sorrells and Commissioner Bailey, I also emailed these slides to you. Were you able to access those?
Yes, I could open them up.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Yes, ma'am. So this just explains to me basically what we're gonna be looking at, you know, just the lack of attention, that both facilities have been getting. This is our McIntyre Court, Boys and Girls Club facility, just an outside view. You can just kind of see, you know, just the cleanup areas that need to be done, the walkway, just the presentation of the building itself, just some debris that is around. If I'm going too fast, y'all please tell me to slow down, okay? And there's just some things that I noticed. I mean, they're important. I mean, you've got some safety concerns. You've got, you know, just, again, just the lack of attention to some. This is a doorway, and in the MOU that we do have with the Boys and Girls Club, it is stated in there about the maintenance, repairs, that the Boys and Girls Club, you know, that they are responsible for. Let's see, these are just some windows, the condition of the equipment, the doors, and that door's got a crack in it and it's rusted. The inside, so the AC filter, as far as cleanliness, it's not being taken care of. This is a board that is used to just cover like an attic entrance. And that's all that is, that's placed there. And it's not been addressed. It's been reported by staff that it needs to be fixed. Obviously there's some concerns, you know, for safety with the children, you're moving about. You can see where this is exposed. So even just the effort to close it up was not a complete effort. The wire exposed, the hole in the ceiling, just a general play area. And again, I mean, the shelves are pretty empty. You know, these could be filled with reading materials, arts and crafts, stuff of that nature. The fire extinguisher, it's not covered for one, it is damaged. This is a bathroom that is also accessible to the children, the students of the Boys and Girls Club. The damage to the door, the wall, the tile, the floors. A lot of, you can just, the pictures speak for themselves, but definitely don't do it any justice seeing it in person. And it has been requested by the staff of the Boys and Girls Club for, you know, maintenance, repairs, things that need to be done, and just kind of get pushed to the side. This is another little play area. You'll see the top left corner. This is where, when it comes to be nap time, the children, there's only certain times that the children are offered sleeping mats. Other than that, there is a rug that is there. You can see that rug has been there for quite some time. It was recommended by staff of the Boys and Girls Club to have the floors redone. And it was mentioned that we'll just have the carpets clean, but it's not sanitary for one, but most importantly, I mean, we don't need our children sleeping on the floor, not when, you know, there's resources that are available to them, whether it be, you know, a mat or, you know, to make it more comfortable. I like to be comfortable when I sleep, so. These are just a TV area. You see there's wires exposed. There's no other entertainment, there's books or movies or anything like that. This is a door that has the board at the bottom of it to stop the water from coming in when it rains. And I just recently learned that this door doesn't even open, which is a huge safety concern. You know, God forbid there be an emergency or something of that nature. Our children couldn't get out. This is a kitchen area. I mean, just nothing's been done to it. It's definitely needs some updating. I mean, you've got the drawers that are, as they appear in the picture, they don't close all the way. The cabinet doesn't close all the way. It looks like one of the hinges are kind of broken off. Again, more fire alarm. Fire extinguisher. The picture on the left, the top left and the bottom right, that is the same window. There was a window that was busted out, not exactly sure how it happened, excuse me. But that is just a piece of OSB board that was placed there, as a repair. Now, I did visit, Monday, and the window has since been replaced, but at this point when the picture was taken, it had been like that for some months.
Months?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes, ma'am.
prior, in the past, which staff member was overlooking the Boys and Girls Club to be identified these issues in the past, prior to this administration?
There was not one, to the best of my knowledge. It was not, the day that myself and interim executive director Baker visited the Boys and Girls Club, they were very surprised, and shocked at the same time to even see us and meet us personally. They had not been, ma'am.
So in the past, how often did somebody in the past, cause the Boys and Girls Club already been there, so how did this get overlooked? I mean, children aren't in there in the past, how did this get overlooked and just now being founded? I mean, I don't understand that. I understand what y'all doing, but this is the first time, how did this get overlooked in the past?
Madam Vice Chair, and I understand that. I know that I've been here, and generally we just get the annual MOU that states that we're going to approve our MOU for the Boys and Girls Club. I can honestly say myself, I have never actually visited the facility. I hope, and that of course that may be on me, but all was ever asked for in the past from staff was simply to approve the MOU.
Okay, and okay, but I understand that, but I'm just saying, if this is part of housing authorities, it is negligent to overlook it. I mean, okay, just go forward, okay. Mm-hmm.
This is just a cleaning room supply area. I believe it's this sink in particular that doesn't work. It doesn't drain, it's not able to drain. This is a light, obviously, there's no cover, there's no cover on it. Again, just lots of safety concerns, cleanliness, neglect, and again, a lot of this is defined in the MOU that was agreed upon between the Boys and Girls Club, and under prior administration. And it's just, it's not holding up their end of the deal. How about that? Again, the floors, just the condition of the overall facilities has not been taken care of. This is a reading area, again, just more arts and crafts, a lot of the clutter, if a child was to go in there and try to pick something off the shelf, they run into the risk of something falling on them, or, this is the computer lab. There's one laptop.
Where?
You can see it in the top left picture. It's the laptop that's right there. Short.
Now, if I may,
Okay.
the top left picture, the black box with the arrows on right now, I was explaining that there are laptops in there, but they keep them locked up. So they're in that box, but they don't use them.
I'm gonna need a recess after this.
And the chairs that are in there, it's a little hard to tell. Again, like I said, these pictures don't really do this any justice. Seeing it in person, all of these are faded and cracked and just old. It just seems as though we get a lot of hand-me-downs, which is not, what happened? It's just not, it's not appropriate. This is the fire alarm system that was reported several times. It wasn't working properly. There was no follow-up. We've since, Director Cooper has since gotten in touch with ASG, and we did have to order a new panel because that one was just done for lack of better terms, but had been in that condition for quite some time.
Hang on, I'm sorry. This is the fire alarm system,
Yes, sir.
and was the housing authority responsible for the fire alarm system?
It needed not.
Yes, we
Yes,
normally
and-
pay once a year
Yeah.
for the inspection of the fire alarm system, so that would tell me that's our responsibility.
Right.
And so the fire alarm in this building was inoperable,
Mhm.
and we know that is at least how long?
The staff member said it had been like that for quite some time. Quite some time could be construed as a few days, a few weeks, a few months, but you
Okay.
can believe it was, yeah.
So Mrs.
Just-
Cooper, back
Yes,
to Commissioner Belly's question.
Yes, sir.
I would hope, it's obvious, but I would hope not that we didn't have a specific person that was over this project.
Not a specific person, no.
So, but my question is, whose idea was it to go and assess or check on the Boys and Girls Club that we are over? Whose idea was this?
Mine,
Yours?
yes, sir.
What brought that idea up?
Honestly,
And I guess because of your new role, new position?
well, not just that, but it's no secret, there's not a lot for our children, in either housing community, to do. There are playgrounds in just a couple. I'd noticed that the Boys and Girls Club in Glenvilla, which is right next to the main office and also behind the K-PAC building, I've not seen any movement through there, because I get out and walk the properties and, try to meet the residents, and there's times I do get out and play with the kids. But I just not noticed there just wasn't really any movement. So I knocked on the door a couple of times, no answer, and so that's what took me to the McIntyre Court facility, and that's what started all this.
And let me be clear from a budget aspect.
Yes, sir.
We award them over $100,000?
Yes, sir. It's actually $123,000, but they also get to use our facilities at no cost.
At what?
At no cost.
123.5.
123.5. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, hang on. I love this discussion. Will you get, I need a break.
Yeah.
I need a break.
Because
I think we need a break. Thank you. I need a motion to give us a recess.
A motion to recess. I need to
Do
go.
we have a second for a 15-minute recess? We have a motion on the floor for a 15-minute recess by Commissioner Dickerson and seconded by Commissioner Dobson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, have the same.
Are we serious? I'm sorry.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We will return at 11:16 is our 15 minutes. 11:16, that's when we will return. Thank you.
And now I'll get to do
Ms. Bennett, I see your hand raised. We'll address it whenever we get back.
This is a recess. We'll have no discussion on anything, but we will come back and pick up immediately where we left off.
Thank you, Ms. Curry, for the coffee. Are you serious?
It looks very good, doesn't it?
Oh my God.
We're coming back. Please take your seats.
Ms. Cooper is resolving one issue. That's a resolve. We just probably got to look at everything. So hold on for a second.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I know, I just invoked your name.
I'm sorry.
Are you just gonna recognize the T-shirt, the national champion?
Bulldog.
I didn't see that. I don't see that. I don't see that.
You know he's an Alabama fan.
Can you go back to back?
Did you go back to back and play again?
Championship.
Oh, can y'all get to the game? Oh, we get there all the time. I understand.
Mr. Brooks, you said there was Ms. Cooper is.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Great. I'm sorry, I forgot to.
This is a regular season game
But I'll have
this
that
year.
email to you about.
Just a few minutes.
Where the rain go? Where the coop go?
This is good.
Ms. Cooper
I pulled it up
has to
on my
continue
emails
this part
too,
of the
but this is good.
presentation.
Oh, you did get it. Okay,
to
great.
resolve
I wasn't
issues
sure if you
very
received it or
briefly.
not.
So just give us a second.
Make sure it's North Carolina.
It's fine that we're moving on at this moment. We haven't officially come back yet, but we will be back here momentarily. We'll come back as soon as I understand Miss Cooper still has more to her presentation.
Yeah, she's right there in the
And she
doorway on the way in.
is- Apparently she is taking care of resolving some issue. But as soon as she comes back, we will come back from recess and allow her to continue her presentation.
You know,
Second on the official bring us back. Okay, thank you everyone for the brief recess. We will now come back to our regularly scheduled meeting as of the recess, and we will allow Ms. Joyce Cooper to continue her presentation. Ms. Cooper?
I have my hand raised, excuse me, I have my hand raised.
Yes,
I
ma'am,
have
Madam
some-
Vice Chair.
I have some questions, and then I have to move to another location to continue this meeting. Ms. Cooper, if any of the staff can answer this question, doesn't the Boys and Girls Club have a board of directors?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are the duties, are y'all aware of the duties of the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club?
According to the MOU, I mean, to plainly state, just to follow the guidelines of the MOU that was agreed upon between the Brunswick Housing Authority and the Boys and Girls Club.
And I would like a copy of that. My other question is.
Yes, ma'am,
Does the board of directors have are they supposed to send y'all a monthly report of the Boys and Girls Club?
Yes, ma'am. I actually emailed you and Commissioner Sorrells a copy of the MOU. And in that MOU, yes, ma'am, it does state that a monthly report, is to also be provided by the Boys and Girls Club to the Brunswick Housing Authority.
So when was the last time you got so in that report, did they mention any discrepancies in either one of these Boys and Girls Club?
I'm not aware of any reports, because those reports would have been submitted, to the prior administration.
Can y'all find it and see just a copy to see if any discrepancies? Next question is, the staff from the Boys and Girls Club, what is their duties? Do they have a duty to give you a monthly report or any discrepancies that's in the Boys and Girls Club that they're working in?
So to answer your first question, I did, as much research as I could with what I have available to me. I was not able to find any reports, and any emails, what are they called, drives? I was not able to find any, and, my conversations with staff, it was to report any needs, repairs, anything necessary, for either facility, to the directors, and it was handled from there, is my understanding.
Okay, so since we have an interim director, he can be, able to look at some of those files that were left behind, I guess, to find any reports of discrepancies from either the board or the staff for the Boys and Girls Club. And another question, what are the ages of the children at McIntyre Court? Because to my understanding, the Boys and Girls Club, depending on which community they're in, they're for different ages of children. Am I correct?
So they offer after-school programs, summer camps, and so yes, there's different thank you. Sorry. Excuse me 1 second. So just after school programs and summer programs. I did not see here where it's defined as far as age group, but it is believed, elementary school and up. So yes, ma'am. And
So they mix the ages of the children, like teenagers, elementary and middle school at the Boys and Girls Club?
That I'm not aware of, just for the simple fact that, I know there's different rooms, for areas of focus for like learning and stuff like that. So I'm sure that is something that the staff is directed on, how to assess the needs of the students with certain age groups.
And when did you notice, and you said you noticed no movement, how long ago did you notice no movement? Boys and Girls Club?
Several weeks ago. And I'd like to note, just for the record, that under current administration, it is strongly encouraged by all staff to visit properties, even other facilities or partnerships or anything of that nature. Under prior administration, that was not encouraged. So this allowed.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So yes, ma'am. So again, under the current administration, under interim executive director Baker's, he encourages that happen. That we get out, take a break from the desk, the office, and just start building stronger relationships with our residents and children and all those alike.
So I hope going forward with these slides that the staff and the interim director has a conversation with the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Club, because they're negligent to these discrepancies, and they don't need to have that position if they're not upholding their job. And until this gets cleaned up, I would like to see something monthly of how you all are moving forward to rectify these discrepancies, because that's ridiculous. Children sleeping, taking naps on rugs, not cots or anything like that, and they are funded the money for these things. And did I not hear that y'all have that they were laptops in boxes and only one laptop was being used?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
That's ridiculous.
Yes,
that's ridiculous.
Yes, ma'am. And also, I'd like to point out, this is just the beginning. This is just to bring awareness to the board and also staff. And moving forward, it is definitely towards change and accountability and all that.
And once again, on the organizational chart, I ask that a staff be either hired or being crossed over for someone to be over these programs, that we partnership with Brunswick Housing Authority, because this way these discrepancies can be found. And going forward, I hope that the staff learned their lesson from the previous administration, and regardless of whether or not your job was told to be in jeopardy or not, we're here to uphold you all and the executive director if that's being said. But don't stifle yourselves anymore and bring these things to the light. I have to change the position where I'm at, and so I will pick up and turn back in when I move to a different place.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Go ahead and continue, Ms. Cooper.
Okay. So,
Hang on, just a sec. I think Commissioner Sorrell.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Sorrells, you have something as well?
Yes, yes, sir, thank you. And if I'm moving too far ahead, Ms. Cooper, just tell me, go ahead. So when I looked at the MOU, I want to understand, I see sort of two issues that you're presenting, and just wanting to kind of be clear about what the intent, you mentioned awareness in terms of the intent of the presentation, but then also next steps, and I know you're probably going to get to the next step. But two things, the MOU loosely says that the Brunswick Housing Authority maintenance will supply general day-to-day maintenance, but the Boys and Girls staff is ultimately responsible for cleaning and maintenance of the building. And that's pretty loose and broad. And I know that there was a point made before we got to this piece that MOUs were gonna be evaluated. So I just wanted to sort of highlight that because that is, not very clear and there are no descriptors put in place, that both entities could go back and forth about blaming who is responsible for the maintenance of those buildings. I just wanted to point that out. And then the second thing is that the MOU doesn't speak to the quality of services provided. So again, there's not opportunity to hold people accountable when it's not, and I know we're not responsible for the MOU, so I'm just stating this for the benefit of the MOU evaluation of how we move forward. But it doesn't speak to the quality, and so even in monthly reporting, with absent of that, we don't know what the communication was between the Boys and Girls Club and the previous administration around what services they were or were not providing.
oh, yes, ma'am, thank
You
you.
want to see it, check in and make sure that I'm understanding that correctly.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you for that. Okay. So we've reviewed McIntyre Court. This is now Glen Villa, Boys and Girls Club, which is directly beside the central office and behind the KPAC building. The photos just, depict the visible damage and areas that need to be addressed. Boys and Girls Club to provide the children and staff a safer and cleaner environment. And again, these pictures on slides don't do it really justice, but here we go. So this is just the front of the Boys and Girls Club facility at Glen Villa. This is it's like a arts and crafts room, sitting room. You can see that the exposed, again, the wires, outlets, the tables and chairs are very just outdated, stained up, and again, some of these chairs do have cracks in them. They're faded, and it's just the way that it's set up. I mean, you've got one table that's just kind of facing a wall. There's not a large amount of space, so yeah. Again, just more tables. These are old and used, and it's a lot of what's reported just kind of hand-me-downs. Sorry, there's a little glare right there. The condition of some of the furniture, it's old, cracked up, and again, shelves just kind of being exposed, which raises safety concerns, for the children. This is, this is another craft room. This sink also is not able to be used. It's clogged, so can't run the water, and if you do, it obviously doesn't drain, so there's bacteria and stuff that can be built up in that. This is a small like storage area. See boxes stacked up, tables that are folded up but not secure. So kids get adventurous and curious, and God forbid they grab a hold of one of these tables just to see what it is. Then accidents are possible to happen. This is a cleaning closet where cleaning supplies are kept. That is rust and dirt and whatever else is gathered there. That is a sink. Yep, that's a sink. It's rusted. The wall, there's a mop on the floor. Some of the walls are patched. The top left is storage area. There is a door there, but it's not able to be locked. The bottom right picture, they're bookshelves. They're empty. Pool tables. There's, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4 pool tables in there. A hockey table that doesn't work. Books, old books that even staff has said, they've read numerous times and have requested, new books. And it's my understanding that there are donations that do come, but they're not delivered. Just another view of and once you walk into the building, this is open. So once you walk in the front door, this is what you see. The vending machine is completely empty. It has since been stocked. I did view that yesterday. Let's see, the bottom right corner, this is just kind of a couch sitting area that was delivered to the Glen Villa facility and presented as we just don't have room for it, so put it where you see fit. The top left picture is it's another one of those rooms where crafts and learning and reading and writing and drawing are all taking place. When we went and visited, the first time we visited, we were not able to get into that room. The door was locked, but visiting there yesterday, the lighting is poor. There is a opening in the ceiling. They don't have one of the ceiling tiles, and it has been requested by staff, and they said they just don't have anything to put there, so it remains open. So a lot of times the staff and teachers don't utilize that room just because of the safety concern of that ceiling being exposed. The bottom picture is just a cubby, but of course, that can be filled with books, movies, other learning materials, what have you. Again, just more pictures of the learning area, but again, this is the same room that is not utilized often because of the exposed ceiling tile. This is candy machines. The candy is coagulated. It's the best thing I can come up with, and it's old. Doesn't really get restocked. This is at the kitchen area. You can see the fire extinguisher, and I don't really know what the note on the counter is. That may have been an
That's the weekly food menu.
Oh, weekly food menu. Okay, thank you. The refrigerator. The refrigerator at the bottom, it holds water. When the moisture builds up, and we all know, either from the freezer or the fridge, the door not being closed all the way, but the door can't be closed all the way because of what's it called, like a moisture seal. It's in less favorable condition.
So children are being fed from that refrigerator?
That is
and
correct.
Drinking?
Yes, sir. The board underneath the fridge, that's what holds the refrigerator up to keep it sturdy. Again, just some more photos of the refrigerator, the counter, the cabinets. I mean, they're just old.
Oh, no.
Yes, sir. That is a critter. I think it's
And if I can interject right here, when I opened the refrigerator to take that photograph, roaches just come running out. So,
Let's,
and,
let's
uh,
allow, let's allow Ms. Cooper to
finish
her presentation, please.
There's again, the vending machine that was empty, but like I said, I went there yesterday, it has since been stocked. The water fountain does not work. That what you're looking at there is if you're standing in the large room as you walk in, that is the entrance, the front door to the Boys and Girls Club. The table there that you see on the bottom corner, that's their registration table.
What fish tank?
Where there, oh yeah, there was a fish tank.
Are there fish in it?
There are fish in it, and I can't go back. What happened?
I closed.
I probably did. Yeah, and there is a fish tank on the right side, so. And that's that. Now, yesterday when I was there, there are cameras in Glenvilla. They don't work. They've asked to be repaired, and there's just no attention brought to it. There are cameras on the outside of McIntyre Court. I believe there's one at the front and one at the back. Director Cooper has since yesterday been in contact with the camera company to see what we can do to get these up and functioning, because of course this is a huge safety concern for staff and most importantly children. So yes.
Is that the end of your presentation, Ms. Cooper?
Yes, I'm done. That's
Okay.
it. That's it.
Thank you. And this was just a presentation to inform the board.
Correct.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Yes, I gotta get off the chest. First of all, I'm embarrassed. This is embarrassing. We're talking about kids here. Kids. It's appalling, it's disturbing. I can go on and on. I want to direct a question to the interim director.
The interim director isn't present.
Oh, Mr. Davis?
No. Mr. Baker?
But Mr. Baker?
Yeah, he's not here.
He's not here. Okay. Well, anyway, I'd like to say this. How do we get to this point when we're funding the boys club this money? Who is not held accountable? How can, that is neglect.
Agreed. Yes, sir.
That is embarrassing to the housing authority. That is embarrassing to the cause of the housing authority. That's not what it's intended to be. Now, this is a #1 priority.
Yes, sir.
But everything we talk about today, this takes precedence over that. This got to be addressed. Now, what I would say, I would make a motion that all these facilities be shut down. Shut down to further notice. This cannot go on. It's a hazard. The COVID is one thing, but inviting this kind of activity and we're going on like this normal, it's unacceptable.
I agree, and like I stated
I said-
before, that it's this is just the first step of bringing the awareness of the neglect and the condition of the facilities and what lack of resources have been offered to our children.
Well, this is the painful part. I ain't got to that yet. How can we get to this point that we is nigh the damage and just not recognizing this position? So somebody has not been doing their job. Who's in charge of Boy Club? Who's on the staff? Like Ms. Bailey said, who is not taking notice of these activities? Where is our staff? Why haven't we surveyed these things and it got to this point here where it's so disturbing?
Yes,
until
sir.
we got to just shut this project down.
Yes, sir. So the best way for me to answer that for you, Commissioner, is the lack of ineffective leadership under the prior administration and lack of follow-up And that's what I have for you,
Will
sir.
we continue to fund the boys club after this display?
Let's, before we get into the legalities of the
This is
contract
disturbing.
and what we need to do, of course, we wanna make sure that we act appropriately from a legal matter. We will have to address or ask counsel for advice.
So we're talking about sooner than later.
We will move into executive session at some point today, I hope.
That's disturbing.
And then as far as the legal matters that surround this, in executive session, I would recommend that we hold any of the legal discussion surrounding this presentation for executive session with Mr. Hartman.
It's unacceptable.
I agree.
I would just like to say real fast, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Sorrells. It was
I'm
next.
sorry, Commissioner Sorrells, you have your hand up. I think.
Disturbing.
Yes, sir, thank you. So, thank you for the awareness. I think, Commissioner, interim executive director Baker is not present, so, can't respond to this, but, I would appreciate knowing his thinking around some key next steps. And I think, in terms of us assessing the viability of those programs, being mindful that they are still serving children after school, and what would be, the benefit versus the risk of those families who are dependent upon that center for after-school care. So I think those are some things that we have to consider, but I would certainly, I think when we raise issues, and I expect that these are gonna continue as you all are evaluating all of the contracts and MOUs, and essentially evaluating the past behavior, of previous administration and staff, right? There are a lot of things that are gonna come to light, and so raising those things and the shock and all of that is great, but we certainly need to know that we need to have a plan of action or at least an idea around next steps. And I know this wasn't intended for that, but I'm hoping that we can at least have that on the agenda for our next conversation.
Absolutely. Commissioner Dickerson, you had a statement.
Yes, first I would like to commend the leadership and the staff of uncovering this craziness. And I want to personally thank you all, everyone that was involved, and you said it was your idea, Mr. Cooper, to assess our Boys and Girls Club. I'm thankful that you all uncovered this. So now we know, and I agree with Commissioner Sorrells, we need to move forward with a plan like ASAP, as well as Commissioner Dawson.
Like I said, I mean, I definitely, I'm a firm believer in, give credit where credit is due. Like I said, this was a collaborative effort. Mr. Baker was present, for the visiting of the Boys and Girls Club, both facilities, and is as eagerly ready to move forward in correcting and addressing, and again, there were others involved, so I can't take full credit for it. So just want to recognize, all those that were involved. Yes, sir, but thank you.
So you're gonna look forward to, again, from my understanding, Madam Vice Chair Bailey, she wants to make sure we have these monthly reports. You will, I guess, try to sift through the drives where that information may or may not be, so we can have a report on that for next month, and then you'll work with staff and Mr. Baker to come up with next steps and some sort of plan for resolving this issue.
I already have some next steps and plans and ideas in motion, but of course, that's going to require, board approval and communication, and of course, Mr. Baker being present, don't wanna jump ahead of myself, but I'm ready just as soon as I get the green light.
Okay. Any further questions from the commissioners about Ms. Cooper's presentation about the Boys and Girls Club?
When will we address this again?
Next month at our regular meeting.
So in the meantime, the kids do have to endure this?
We will, again, we're gonna move here into executive session, and we'll add that as a topic to discuss with legal. Okay?
Can you copy me on those, on that email? I'll take a look at it.
So I will look.
Yeah, I'll
Don't
take
wanna
a look at it.
confidently say yes or no.
I'll take a look at what it is, not, I'll get it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper, for bringing this to our attention. I'm sure the board is gonna have plenty of discussion on this. And, we will look forward to next month, maybe sooner, to address issues surrounding this Boys and Girls Club presentation. Thank you. Please. Excuse me. Okay, moving on now, reports of committees under commissioners, or do we have any reports from committees at this point? From any of our substitutes that have any reports that they have conducted, at this point? Okay, next up, Commissioner Sorrell, she has a commissioner's item about monthly reporting. Go ahead, Commissioner Sorrell.
Thank you. Just wanted to, I may have said this, I don't want to belabor the point, but just wanting to have information provided to us on a monthly basis to guide our decisions, and some of that including revenue and expense reports, staffing, vacancy rates, any contracts that were executed, things of that nature that I think we could, as a commission, come together. If this has not been provided before, so let me stop and ask that question before I make an assumption. Have any dashboards and any monthly reports been provided before to the commission, and this is going off of it not being provided last month when I was in my first commission meeting, and then nothing provided this month as well?
Generally, when you're seeing the dashboard for number of residents and turnover rate, vacancies, such and so forth, that information has never been reported to the board. We do have our monthly accounts receivables of the people that we are evicting, which that report at this point is fluid. I'm going to keep using that word fluid on a couple of these reports. However, I did speak to Mr. Baker and staff. I believe that at some point they're going to present to us some additional software to be able to create those reports that we require. I believe the reports at this point potentially can be created. However, it is very labor intensive. But I agree with you, yes, we do need those reports.
Okay, thank you, and I don't intend to add to the workload, just wanting to, and maybe it's some agreement that we can come to as a commission around what key items would be helpful in decision making, but certainly, being a part of the finance, committee with Commissioner Dickerson, the inability to make decisions about the finances without having something available, to me, doesn't allow us to fulfill our duty. So, I would absolutely like to have information around contracts and things of that have been extended, the previous month, so we can keep account of.
Our current policy states that, and I understand, this is something that I've asked, Interim Director Baker to do, was to, present to us, and I think as we go through our policy review, again, our current policy states that, staff and even the interim executive director can, do those contracts, issue RFPs, below a certain threshold, and again, that threshold, I believe at this point is $100,000 when it has to come before the commission. But we are well within our rights to review any of those contracts, or I guess, yeah, that would be it, contracts or RFPs, even if they fall below the threshold. But that is where we are currently, based upon our current policy, and I understand that staff is working to review our policy, and we will be able to make certain changes into that policy moving forward.
Okay, appreciate that. And not questioning individual contracts, talking just collectively. There's a level of accountability in making these decisions that we don't have information to inform the decision. So if we could just, I don't want to take up more time in this meeting, but if we can come together along with the staff to identify what reporting is accessible and available, things that they may already be reporting on that doesn't require a lot of manpower to develop. I believe the board should have a monthly report that is inclusive of a few things. And I just identified the contract as one thing, but that's not the extent of what I'm asking about.
Oh yes, absolutely. We were just in training.
Okay.
We were just in training in Savannah, or excuse me, on Jekyll Island, and there was a course that we took that specifically addressed a dashboard with a number of different things. However, again, my understanding is that our software cannot necessarily address that at this moment. And I have instructed, or I've asked, that staff look into those softwares so that we can have a more accurate picture of the housing authority. And I agree with you, Commissioner Sorrells. All right.
Thank you.
Any further commissioner items at this point before we adjourn? Wait, hang on. Do you have a comment? I'm sorry, I don't have your name.
Brooke, I would just like
Brooke?
to speak.
Okay, and are you a resident?
Yes.
Okay, we have a resident here that would like to speak before we go to executive session. I will give you the floor for, what is it, 5 minutes? 5 minutes is enough time?
I just want to share some injustices that I have been dealing with, and the Boys and Girls Club stuff, that is awful. But the kids are also living in it, and nothing is being done. So my light bill was $821. Yes, it had some late fees on it because I struggle. But $821 is a little ridiculous. Look at my air filter. Brunswick Housing didn't want to do anything about this. They wanted me to pay the light bill that my children was bringing this in. Pest control was being done. They wasn't notifying me that they were in my units and what time they put my children in danger with the pesticides because I didn't know what time they were there. The refrigerator, you want to talk about refrigerator? Mine looks the same way, but not with roaches because I don't do roaches. But I reported it, and that was okay. That's what the back of my refrigerator looks like. They're also living in it. There is mold. Hockin Homes is kitchens were redone, and I had been reporting for months, a water leak. And I have even, all this is evidence. And I have already worked with HUD before, so I'm just letting y'all know because I wasn't wanted at this meeting. I have had the runaround to get here. Nobody wanted, at first it was public, then I had to be put on a agenda. So I just showed up this morning. But when they took my cabinets down after reporting the leak, this is what they found. Was anything done? No. Brand new cabinets stuck back up. So then I reported, hey, y'all's new cabinets, they're about to be ruined again, and I'm gonna be held responsible because y'all didn't fix the problem. This has never been addressed. The bathtub was finally fixed. They tried to charge me maintenance fees for something they didn't fix, and it wasn't even what I reported. They fixed something that I didn't even report. And I have dates, everything. I failed a housing inspection for my beds being in front of the windows. First off, I'm not climbing my fat tail out in their second story window. If that's the case, are y'all gonna provide drop down ladders or something? No, of course not. Contractors were stealing my water. You know what? My water bill was over $200. You know what Brunswick Housing told me? Make a police report. That's y'all's contractors. That's y'all's people stealing my water. But I ate it. This $821 light bill, I refuse. You want to talk about safety issues? Look at all these broken latches that I have reported and reported. This is second story floor. I've seen a child in Hopkins Homes hanging out the window on the roof.
What's your unit number?
87. This is called so much emotional distress, missed work. Brunswick Housing does not care. They don't even return. Site office is always locked. They never answer the phones. The only way you can half-ass get them to do anything is if you email. And I have several email threads where never even got a response. Never. That's all I have to say. If anybody wants any further information, I can speak with you. But that's the basics.
Thank you, Ms. Brooke. I appreciate that. That was
the bathrooms. All the bathrooms in most of the apartments I've been in look the same way as the Boys and Girls Club would.
We appreciate you for your statement. I have a question for staff. Ms. Brooke said that the cabinets were redone. Was that part of our RFP that we did here just a few years ago or something like that? Or one of those?
It was about a year ago they were redone.
I'm just
What are you
having
talking about, the
finding my
kitchen
words today.
renovations for Hopkins? I can't say off the top of my head if that was part of it. I don't know the start of it.
Right. I'm asking it in general did we do for, what is it called? Our capital improvements.
Right.
Did we do a capital improvement for kitchens and kitchen cabinets at Hopkins Homes? We think so. And okay, I'll just stop with that one there. Okay. Thank you for coming out and sharing with us. We'll definitely have someone in contact with you so that we can get any and all
I'm sure they will
grievances
now.
handled. Commissioners, does any of you want to comment on Ms. Brooks's presentation?
Yes, I would. You stated that you 800 and,
My light bill went from an average of $7 a day. My light bill's always high. I'm not even gonna lie. It's always
is
high.
that, you talking about a month? That's on a month basis?
No, it was $400 a month. For 2 months, it was $400.
So that's accumulation of 2 months on the light.
Right.
So you refuse to pay, so that's how I got to.
Because my light bill runs $250. Because they failed to change the filters, my light bill went from $7 a day to $12
Okay,
a
your
day.
light's still on?
Yes,
Georgia Power working with you?
yes. I've got it situated. I just want everybody to know that people are getting treated like crap. Getting a runaround. With current staff I know in here. And these evictions, what if people have nowhere else? Because if I didn't get assistance, there was no way I could pay $800 for my rent, late fees,
How long you been in the unit?
2 years. And it's been nothing but harassment since I've been there.
That's the last time you got your filter changed?
No, it was being changed.
How old is that filter?
I don't know. I was told I needed to remind them to change the filter. That's not my job. I didn't sign that in my lease. Y'all are supposed to do the maintenance, or whoever does the maintenance, not me. I was doing my part in cleaning the little nasty filter that's stained up.
They normally change your filter every month.
Right.
Have you been getting filters and not changing them yourself, or?
I don't change filters. That's not, I didn't sign that in the lease.
Okay.
They're supposed to change, they were doing it.
Because I know I change my own filter at times.
I
Because
just thought
I
it
feel
might-
like if I don't keep that monitored, that's gonna run the air conditioning much harder, and it's gonna cause more
You're correct.
on the light bill.
But that's the BHA's maintenance issues. I didn't sign that.
I understand.
They're supposed to upkeep, not me. So I don't worry about that because they don't mind harassing me about not taking the trash to the road.
I understand.
I paid that fee because I did it. It was wrong. This is negligence on BHA's part. And I'm working with HUD, so I just wanted you to be aware.
Again, thank you for Ms. Brooks for bringing this to our attention. We will definitely have someone in contact with you to help resolve any of these grievances or maintenance issues as best as we possibly can. Thank you again for
Thank you.
bringing this to our attention.
Yes, sir. And there's probably more, but people can't get here. You have to jump through hoops.
Commissioners, we do need to have an executive session, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session.
I can make a motion that we adjourn, to executive session.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson to adjourn regular meeting and move to executive session, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. Thank you, we will move into executive session. Ms. Curry, you are to know. What's that? Yes.
I'm in the middle of another work meeting, so I need to,
Yeah,
excuse myself.
I need a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
I like the,
Oh,
motion.
I thought you said return to the regular meeting, I'm sorry.
We did return, we're gonna return and
Adjourn the
adjourn.
regular meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Dickerson, seconded by Commissioner Dobson to adjourn the regular meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. That passed unanimously. This meeting now stands adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. And Ms. Sorrells, I need to come and have a cigar with your husband.